How would you like to beat 99% of your competition using AI? I'm Tate Pollock, founder of Pivotal and author of the book Everywhere Commerce. So, how can you beat 99% of your competition with the use of AI? Over the last 26 years, I've developed a style of prompting, not just using AI, but using people. I've worked with countless freelancers from all over the world, including India, Vietnam, Thailand, all over the USA, all over the UK, different South Africa, different accents everywhere. And I've always had to be as clear as possible and break communication down into its simplest form in order to get the best outcomes when working with my clients, but using freelancers and overseas to get the best outcomes. Not only that, but being a developer and coming from a developer background, I've got a very logical, if this then that way of thinking, and that translates well into how I prompt. And from that, I've been able to document and learn and create tactics, and as well as research and dig deep into how to get the best out of prompting so that I can share that with you. So here goes. Prompting is a skill just like communication is a skill. It's probably the most monetizable skill in the world. If you have good communication, you can become way wealthier than if you have good rocket science or astrophysics. Having really deep, detailed knowledge of a certain subject is great, but communication is literally the one that will put you in the top 1% of everyone in every subject. Prompting is the same. You can be really good at getting an outcome with your prompting, but to use your prompting in a way where you get an action, or you're able to complete actions from it and get results from it, not just learn and to get something cool. You want to get actual, tangible and usable results. That's where you're going to get into that 1% category that's going to give you an edge. Many people just use prompting for maybe getting a recipe, or possibly writing a poem or sharing a joke, or they might use it to get a little bit of ideation together for an idea. So say, for example, if you're in marketing or design and you're looking to come up with some good adverts, you might use ChatGPT, give me a list of some good advert ideas or some nice creative ideas. But in order to get the best out of that prompt, you have to get it to take on a role, and you have to get it to know exactly what a good outcome looks like. And that's how we get onto the subject of a master prompt. So if you're writing a book and you're writing it for an English or a UK English audience, you might want UK spelling. So you're going to say as part of your master prompt, I want UK spelling. You can give specific information like this in a master prompt, which you give before the rest of your prompts, that will give the rest of your prompts that context. You then go and prompt it for the individual chapters. So say, for example, you're writing a book, you've given it the master prompt, you'll then give it the overall structure. So you're going to create, maybe like if you consider it like a body, you're going to give it the bones. So the bones would be, I want you to give me a chapter structure based on this book title, and I want it to have a story arc. I want a beginning, a middle, a twist, and an end, for example. And then you're going to get your chapter titles, and you're going to tweak those, and you're going to get the bones together. And then you're going to add the muscle, the sinews, the nerves, and the skin, and you're going to make a complete body out of your outcome, and you're going to use your master prompt to do that. As AI is progressing, it's starting to be able to refer to things like that more often and more regularly, and without you needing to refresh it. But it's always a good idea, in the short term at least, in the next couple of years, to pass in your master prompt on a regular basis to keep things aligned with your original goals. So once you've got your master prompt identified, then we need to move on to the next thing. So I think the next thing is understanding what the system prompt is behind the scenes. So when thinking about a system prompt, you need to consider that actually you're talking to something with a preset list of instructions that it has to follow from a higher authority than you as the customer. Believe it or not, ChatGPT themselves, Claude themselves, Anthropic, have given their AI, their LLMs and their chatbots a preset list of instructions which they need to follow and prioritize above yours. So that might be, for example, no hate speech, no racism, someone that might be not wearing enough clothing, or maybe you've got a render of something which might look a bit too close to a celebrity, and they could see that as a way of potentially like ripping off someone's identity or putting out false information or propaganda, that kind of thing. All of that is self-contained within the system prompts that you aren't able to manipulate, that are preset within those LLMs as you chat to them within that AI. If you're able to get to a point where you're really happy with the outcome, you can then go back to it and you can say, hey, give me a system prompt which would get me this exact same outcome, and then feed into it what you like about that outcome in that same prompt, and it will come back to you with a long list and a detailed, intricate paragraph that you can then feed back in to get that same kind of outcome without having to go through that whole iterative process and developing the conversation with the AI in that one chat. So another really useful tool now you can get in ChatGPT is the folders. So you can put folders aside for each project, and then you can have chats within those folders, and then within those folders you can share context between that project. And now, even with ChatGPT, you're able to go beyond those folders and it can actually scan all your chats, or you can get it to speak or look as a source of information primarily from those folders, allowing you to kind of treat buckets of information like a project. If you're developing code, for example, and you're doing it within the chat interface as opposed to using AI or Claude code, say you're building out some JavaScript application or something front end, and you want to use ChatGPT and you want to use, I don't know, JS Fiddle or something, and you're just making something quick, but you have 3 or 4 different files you want to work with. Maybe you've got a style sheet file, so a CSS file, maybe a JavaScript file, so a JS file, and maybe you're working with an HTML file too. So you've got 3 separate files, put them in a folder, have a dedicated chat per one, and then your final outcome could be another chat, and that chat can be all 3 of them pulled together into one, but you can then refine each one separately as part of a project to give you the outcome and drop them all into JS Fiddle, and then you can have your, I don't know, whatever the app is, the game or whatever it is you're making as a little test project. Just another example of how you might use a project. But you can also use projects for property portfolios, for example. So if you're a landlord and you have 6 properties, you can stick a property per chat in a folder, or you can have a folder per property, and then you can have individual issues about your property within each folder, and you just have your address title as the project name or the folder name, and then all the things you've dealt with over time can go in as separate chats within those folders. And then next time you need to query something about one of those properties, you just go into a new chat. It will have full context of everything else you've dealt with within that project folder, and then you can speak to it about the regularity of how often you've had your plumbing done there, or how often you've had your Sparky in to fix a certain issue, or maybe that tenant has given you some issues in the past with late rent, and you can query that and you can see what you've done in the past. So as information starts to build and you can't contain it in your head anymore, you can start to use your AI project folders to help you as like an assistant in those different areas. So this moves me on to the next subject, which is how to make your own GPTs. And you can make a GPT for whatever you want. But for this example, we're going to talk about how we can create a team of people, a team of GPTs to help you run your business. What you do is you go to Explore GPTs, you click Create GPT, and then give it a name. So for example, in my case, maybe Pivotal Copywriter. You give it a set of instructions. So this is where you might want to put in your master prompt and your system prompt that you worked out earlier. And then your GPT literally has this in its DNA. Instead of it being something you need to keep putting in again and again as a project, this becomes its sole purpose. So that's quite nice. So you can get it to start by asking certain questions in order to prompt people to prompt it on how it might give the best answer. So literally called conversation starters. You can upload files, links to APIs, and you can even turn on the code interpreter, and you can get it to do web browsing and things like that. And then from that point, you've got yourself almost like a teammate who works in your business. Then your job is to work with all your teammates as kind of CEO and get the most out of them, but they can go off and kind of almost be agentic and do research for you and pull together information. You become the conductor of your own band, or you become the conductor of your own orchestra. It's probably a better way to put it. Once you've created your custom GPT, just save it and then publish it. You can use it yourself and test it and tweak it and keep going until you're really happy with your own GPT. So as an exercise, I suggest you go away, maybe pause this video and go and create your own custom GPT. And ideally, I'd love to find out what you made. So put it in the comments below and let me know what kind of GPT you made. And if you created multiple GPTs, tell me what kind of team structure you created and how you're using them together. That's going to help the other viewers of this video to get the most out of it too, because AI is an evolving thing. It's constantly changing. And I think as a community, we can stay on top of it because we can use the power of groupthink in order to stay on top of it. Think Zapier plus custom GPTs. It's going to, as soon as it's got the ability to use your card and complete actions on your behalf, it's going to be fully autonomous and be able to actually make you money and go away and do really actionable things like go order flowers for my wife, or go order me a takeaway, or choose a takeaway I haven't had in a while, then go order it. And then you'll just have it appear on your doorstep, that kind of thing. I'm going to make more content on AI soon, but for now, just practice your prompting and get better at that. And you're going to be able to beat 99% of your competition. And be that 1% business, that 1% individual, even that 1% athlete or that 1% writer. And you're going to be able to get ahead of your competition through using AI as long as you get really good at prompting. One final note to take away that I find really useful is to practice getting nice renders out of ChatGPT using prompting. If you're able to look at a photo and not show it to AI, this is a good exercise for you, by the way, and you're able to get AI to create that same photo or something very similar to that photo by using just your prompts. And that can be the grain of the photo, it can be the lighting in the photo. If you practice mirroring, getting the same outcome from a ChatGPT render from what you can see, if you can get them really similar, then you're able to get what's in here out on there through your words. Then you're a good communicator, you're a good prompter. And then you can take it one step further with that same prompting, and then your imagination is the limit. Try and use exercises to get better at it. People say that AI is kind of making our brains smoother, making our brains less active because it's taking care of some of that guesswork, some of that thinking that we need to do. The best way to work around that is to wield AI properly and use your actual thoughts. Use your smarts, use your intelligence and wisdom, and push it past the point of giving you nice, easy answers, and get something new out of it. You can only do that by actually using your brain. It's just using it in a different way. And then in theory, those diagrams you can see of how it's affecting our brain activity won't be relevant, and you'll actually be using more of your brain to get more out of AI. It's not that AI is going to take away from our thinking. I think the best way we can describe how it's going to affect people and society and business is those who are able to fully capitalize on their symbiotic relationship with AI, using their brain and using AI together. Those are the people that are going to win. And that means good communicators are going to win, and they're going to rule the planet. So on that note, leave a comment in the comment section below. You can subscribe and check out my other videos, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks.